An introduction to the research process. By the end of this session, you should be able to define educational research, identify the importance of educational research, name problems with research today, describe the research process, identify ethical considerations in conducting research, reflect on the skills you bring to the research process. Why do research? There are several reasons that we can identify. Research helps you comprehend real-world puzzles. It allows you to pursue your interests. In a context where certifications are a must, having research competency is a premium. Is the statement acceptable, questionable, or valid? Research helps you understand events happening around you. It helps you to undertake effective, efficient, and efficacious problem solving. It allows you to make a substantive contribution to knowledge. What is research? Research is composed of three very logical steps. The first is when the researcher asks a question. This is followed by the researcher collecting data. And finally, the researcher indicates how the data was able to be employed, all of the data, how were they employed to answer the question. Research is a process of steps used to collect and analyze information in order to increase our understanding of a topic or issue. For this particular presentation, we are going to take a look at this question. What are the factors that determine student achievement? We are going to look at this question as we try to understand the concepts of research. How important is research? First reason is that it adds to our knowledge. How does this do this? It addresses gaps in knowledge. It expands our knowledge. It replicates our knowledge. It adds voices of individuals to knowledge. Looking at the initial question that we will be using as a focus for this particular session, let's look at it again. What are the factors that determine student achievement? Gender, race, student background, family, we could consider and call these as student level factors. When we take a look at the teacher, the type of classroom, the budgets that are allocated to schools, and the availability of school equipment, we can call these as school level factors. Now, when we take a look at student achievement, do we identify only student level factors? Do we identify solely school level factors? Or is there an interaction between student level and school level factors? Research adds to our knowledge, and with this, we are able to answer this question. The second reason is that research helps improve practice. Educators gain new ideas for their job, educators gain new insights into approaches, and educators can connect with other educators. Again, looking at the question that is our focal point for this session. Student level factors, what are the implications to teaching practice? In other countries, their subjects or most of the subjects are taught in the mother tongue. So if students are born of a particular ethnic background, they are taught the major subjects in their mother tongue. What are the implications of these to teaching practice? When we take a look at school levels, we have this other question, the idea of streaming. Again, in other countries, not necessarily in Australia, students are streamed. They are allocated into groups according to their supposed competency levels. So you have high ability, medium ability, and low ability types of individuals streamed in schools. How do these impact school practices? The third importance of research is that it helps inform policy debates. Research allows people to weigh different perspectives on issues. Research enables people to make informed decisions regarding policy. Going back to that question again, if you focus on student level factors, we can ask a question, what is the impact of existing policies? In different parts of the world, they offer what is referred to as school vouchers. Parents are provided vouchers, notes that allow parents to choose where they would bring their kids to schools. Not necessarily the schools that are nearer or nearest to them, but the schools of their choice. How do these impact policy debates in relation to student achievement? When we take a look at school level factors, there, of course, in Australia, this is very relevant, the idea of government funding. What kind of policy interventions are necessary? With research, it helps inform policy debates, be it when we are looking at student level factors or if we're looking at school level factors. What are some problems with research today? As you can see, you can find contradictory or vague results. There's questionable data, unclear statements about the intent of the study, lack of full disclosure of the data collection procedure, and also inarticulate rendering of the research problem. These are problems that are encountered in research today. What is the process of research? It starts with the identification of the research problem. It is followed by the review of literature, of relevant literature. And after doing this, the researcher is able to specify a research purpose. Collecting data follows. There's an analysis and interpretation data phase in the process of research. And finally, and very importantly, there's a reporting and evaluating of research findings. These are the steps in the process of research. Let's take a look at the first step in detail, specifying a problem, justifying a problem, and suggesting a need to study the problem for audiences are the components of the first step of the research process, identifying a research problem. When we take a look at the review of literature, there are three things that we need to remember. First, locating resources. We can take a look at books, we can take a look at journals, preferably those that are peer-reviewed, and we can also take a look at electronic resources. Again, preferably peer-reviewed. We then select resources. How do we do this? By determining the relevance of these resources to our topic. And then what we do is we organize these resources by developing what some scholars and practitioners refer to as a literature map. And then after we have done this, we are able to summarize the resources in what is referred to as a literature review. The third step in the process of research is specifying a research purpose. After we've completed identification of the problem and the literature review, we now are in a good position to identify our research purpose. There are two components. First, we identify the purpose statement. In this, we explicitly state the major intent of our study, the participants, and the site, the location of the study. We then narrow the purpose statement. There are various purpose statements in the quantitative approaches and also in the qualitative approaches. So for quantitative approaches, we write research questions and or hypotheses. For qualitative research, we usually don't use hypotheses, but what we do is we identify a central phenomenon and then we write sub-questions. Going back to the main focal point of this session, what are the factors that determine student achievement? If we use a quantitative approach, we could identify mean scores of student achievement. In the United States of America, they call it the Scholastic Aptitude Test. In Singapore, they call it the Primary School Leaving Examination. In Australia, we call it NAPLAN. Mean scores of student achievement, controlling for student and school level factors. This could be the research purpose. I want to find out the mean scores of student achievement, controlling for student and school level factors. If I do a qualitative approach, I would specify my research purpose in the following. I would like to take a look at the nuances in classroom subcultures that promote or impede student achievement. For example, student voice, teacher talk? Do these subcultures impede or promote student achievement? Collecting data is the next step of the research process. We, of course, determine the data collection method, select individuals to study, design data collection instruments, and outline the data collection procedures. It's also called the data protocol. We obtain permissions, and eventually we gather the data. After we've collected the data, we now analyze and interpret the information that we have gathered. We take the data apart to look at individual responses. We represent the data in tables, figures, and pictures. And we explain conclusions from the data that address the research questions. It has to be linked. Our analysis and interpretation, they need to be linked to our research questions. Final step of the research process is reporting and evaluating it. So we report research by determining the appropriate audience for our report. We structure the report accordingly, and we write the report sensitively and accurately. We also do an evaluation of our research. Either we self-evaluate or we ask peers to take a look at what we've done to find out whether we make sense, essentially. So we assess the quality of research using recognized standards in a discipline. Standards can come from the academic community, from school districts, or federal and state agencies. What are some ethical considerations in research? 3 fundamental ones. We need to respect the rights of the participants. We honor the requests and restrictions of the research site, and we report the research fully and honestly. What are skills needed for research? We need to be curious to solve puzzles. Also, we have to have a very long attention span because research can sometimes be a daunting and individual process. We need to have suitable library and computer resource skills, and of course we need to have very good writing and editing skills in order for us to be able to communicate properly. For this particular session, I suggested that you take a look at the article by Moore, which is entitled Teacher Researchers at Work. And when you read this, I just wanted you to focus on one particular question. Is there a need for teachers to be researchers? Continuing on reflecting on that particular target article, I wanted you to consider this other question. What does the future hold for teachers in an educational environment that embraces the research culture? And also, I wanted you to think about this particular question. How does research help teachers understand policy? The Australian curriculum is an example of policy. Curriculums in different countries are examples of policy. How does research help teachers understand these policies, particularly if the policies seem to change regularly? How can research findings, what you have read or heard about or seen, how can these research findings be applied to my school classroom? Again, these are questions that you may want to consider if you want to appreciate the extent and the power of research. I invite you to do individual reflection, and these are some of the questions that I would like you to revisit. These are the same ones that I raised earlier, but I wanted you to take a look at it again and see whether reflecting on these will help you understand better the different facets of research. Based on what you have learned so far, what question would you like to focus on as a topic for assignment 3? Why do you want to choose this topic? What are the expected limitations that you will encounter if you choose to write about this topic? And this ends this session on an introduction to the research process. If you have any additional questions or clarifications, kindly get in touch with me through the email link that you see on the screen. Thank you.